Community Beacon, Fridays at 6:30 EST, with your hosts Michaeldseville and Joel Simmons. A channel whose focus is liberty. A place where the lessons discussed and taught will create openings to a more open and freer mindset. A mindset where you may reach the height of your potential and excel. Here are your hosts, Mike and Joel.
What's going on, brother? What's going on?
I'm looking like we might have some technical difficulties already. Is what it looks like. I'm taking a look at the I don't know. I don't even know how to work this thing no more. I feel old now. I feel old. It says my Wi-Fi is spotty as well. So is it mine? Is it yours? I don't know, but we'll work this out as we get to it, brother. Guys, welcome to.
That was mine.
Was it? Okay. All right, guys. Welcome to Community Beacon.
Brother.
It's Friday. It's 6:30. We have technical difficulties, and still we are blessed to be here in front of you. We couldn't do this 5-10 years ago. Like this wasn't a thing. Now we get to come to you all live. So for each and every moment that we get, we surely do appreciate it, guys. Let me run through a little bit of the housekeeping. I'm going to send you this ticker as it blows on the shows on the bottom. Like, subscribe, share. We definitely do appreciate your comments. We appreciate your messages. Just keep, stick with us, man. We are getting somewhere, and we're keep moving, and we are moving forward. Guys, remember on Monday nights, what it's been rough these past 2 episodes, man. I gotta tighten up a little bit, but I'm still doing it. I still want to make sure that I'm consistent with it. So you guys check me out Monday nights. Monday at, it says 9 o'clock, but on Mondays it's What It Takes. Of course, on Wednesdays at 12:30 over the Tenacity Foundation. What are we dropping? It starts with who, brother? I think the brother's having some Wi-Fi issues, but on Wednesdays it starts with me. So very, very important. I want you guys to go check out It Starts With Me. It drops every Wednesday. Tenacity Foundation. Check it out on YouTube. And then, of course, on Fridays, we have Community Beacon each and every Friday. We appreciate y'all, man. We appreciate you all. So bear with us as we get into this episode, as we already experiencing a little bit of technical difficulties. Last week, man, we spoke about the mask that we wear around. How about that? Let me work on a couple of things. We're flying the plane and moving on at the same time. So, yeah, I mean, it's better than it was before. You were just stuck for a little bit. So we're glad to have you, brother. How's it going over there?
Hey, man, we're just doing the thing, man. That's where it's all about. I actually here with some of the guys, taking care of the people as best we can. And, I'm really excited, man. I'm telling you, I'm like really excited. Back at home, my daughter is in the building. So I'm ready to get out of here. I'll be headed home in about an hour and a half. Got to go see her, see what she's doing, see how she's grown, what stories she got to tell.
Absolutely. Love when they come back home, man. The presence in the building. And this is Aaliyah, right? Aaliyah's back home.
That's it. Yeah, she's going to be with us for a couple of weeks. So it's going to be nice. Yeah.
Good. I love it, man. I love it. I'm a big time advocate in their children's lives. This man here has definitely been the model of that, watching him raise his family. So shouts out to him to get to see his baby girl come back in the place to be. No matter how old she gets, I'm sure she's always your baby girl.
Yeah, 100%, man. Awesome. And like same to you too, man.
We working it, brother. I think we do the best that we can with what we have. God has blessed us with some vibrant, excellent children, and let's get into it real quick as we speak on that. Is because I did see the brother Richard Rouse, um, advocate here in Palm Beach County, attorney. He's also a brother of ours. Lost his son yesterday. So I want to send the condolences out to that brother, to him and his son. It's I can't even imagine. I haven't lost a child. I know my parents have lost, my sisters, etc. But losing a child is something that no parent wants to have to go through. It's just not the normal um, timing of things. So I want to send our condolences to him. And here's some other news that we can probably take some time off for the brother. Our your previous worshipful master, um, Reverend Elvin Parker, passed away yesterday. So I definitely want to send my yeah send my condolences out to him and his family, and he has a young daughter as well. I believe his daughter is around the age of 5, maybe 5, between 5 and 7 years old. He has 2 young daughters. So man, time is, and we can just take a real quick minute of silence or time of silence for the brother Elvin Park, Reverend Elvin Parker the third. Yeah, brother. It's interesting when you lose people that are close to you. They go at an age that we don't expect it, but we know neither the time nor the hour. So definitely condolences and our condolences to him and his family. I mean, I've had plenty of conversations with that brother, on and off line. So for him to have to be gone so swiftly was definitely a shock to me when I found out a little bit earlier today. Um, I don't know some words as well.
Yeah, man. Well, definitely give him respect and to him and the position that he was in and the things that we were able to accomplish while he was alive, man. Definitely give him props for that. Um, and then on a broader scope of things, it's like, man, that's one of the life's paradoxes, right? You never know when somebody is coming or going. You don't know when you don't really know when a baby is being conceived. You don't know when a child is being conceived, and then you don't know when someone is being freed. And it's like all through life, every single day, we have to make these different choices on what type of individual we're going to be and how we're going to spend the time with those that we love, those that we like, and those that we don't care too much about. But we never really know who it is that's going to be the one that's in our corner. Sometimes we spend so much time with somebody and invest inside of somebody, and those individuals every so often, not as frequent, I would hope for most people, but every so often they may end up being the individual that is not there for you. Wherein sometimes
Mm-hmm.
there's somebody that you did not spend as much time for that ends up creating such a great impact in your life that you change course and do something great. And I just think that it's a curious paradox. Um, Daddy Madison would always teach us. He said, "You can't treat everybody the same, but you can treat everybody right."
Mm, I love it. I love it. Everyone deserves their just. Well, everyone gets their just due. At least from my end, I try to respect everyone. Give everyone that respect. Um, Rightly so. So awesome words from Daddy Madden. And once again, condolences to those brothers. and you kind of spoke about something, and it kind of leads to what I kind of wanted to talk about today. And I'm starting a campaign, and the campaign is called "Do Not Engage." Do not engage. What do you mean by that, Mike? Simple. I want to say maybe for the better part of half of my life, a little bit over half of my life, I was walking around with a brother with a chip on his shoulder, triggered by a lot of things. Things people said, probably looks that people had, um, just carrying a lot of weight due based upon experiences, different narratives, etc. And I was always attempting to engage people in regards to wrongs that they may or may not have done, their ancestors may have done, etc., etc. And I just carried it on my shoulder, and I was not shy to speak out. Most people know me; I'm not afraid to say what's on my mind. I definitely think I've become a little bit more tactful and restraint in my as I continue to get older and wiser. But what I've also started to understand as well is that people will engage you in conversations, and they aren't really open to any other thing but what they have on their mind. The conversation ends up being disingenuous. What do you mean by disingenuous? Meaning that they already going there seeking a certain kind of result or wanting you to think of the way they want you to think. And I've done it in the past as well. Maybe because I've had more information, maybe because I didn't have more information, maybe because I had feelings towards it. But I think I would like to say once I was given a lot more information, I was always able to at least go back and think on it. I think a lot of people aren't blessed with wanting to critical think, have this critical thinking time to take the critical thinking. But as I'm getting a little bit older and wiser, as I mentioned before, I realized that a lot of time is spent on unfruitful conversations, unfruitful energy output. And so I'm doing this do not engage campaign meeting that we really we have to stop trying to figure out what other people's intents are, especially if it's not going to harm you or harm people around you. And what it is that I think I'm almost day of it because my screen just went out. So just to engage. So, brother, what do you think about my do not engage campaign?
I'm still here, bro. I'm just hoping that maybe I can trim down that bandwidth. Listen, man, what you're talking about, that's real.
Let me turn mine off too. It might help.
That's real, man. What you're talking about is real, because the thing about it is like what we were talking about. What was that, last week or the week before? I think it was last week. We just started to have this open conversation, right? And that open conversation was about freedom and what freedom really is. And man, like this conversation that you just opened up, this disengaged conversation, that's really deep right there, because it definitely gives an individual opportunity to really speak when it's necessary. And I think that sometimes we speak too much, we say too much, and we disclose too much, And the thing about it is that every person that speaks, they want to be heard, right? That's the purpose of speaking, because you want to be heard. So when it comes down to whether or not it is heard, is something totally different. It all depends on somebody else and their perception of what you're speaking about and how empathically they're listening to the conversation that you're delivering. And that makes a huge difference. And at any rate, we as people, if we are caught behind the desire to be heard, then it almost steals our thunder from us, because if we're not heard, it's almost as if we never spoke.
Right.
The power is in the speech, right? The power is in the tongue. The power is not in the hearing of it, but then there is great development in hearing what has been spoken.
I totally agree, brother. And you mentioned that the we want to be heard, and everyone wants to be heard. I think just being okay with not necessarily getting, because being heard has to totally, it relies on the person on the other end. I mean, we can always improve our skills of communication. We spoke about that all last month. But also just being understand it sometimes it's just not time for people to hear or get the message. There's times that you've given me messages and it's taken me a year or two just to say, oh, that's what the brother was talking about. And you've allowed me, you spoke it and you gave it to me, but you also allowed me to get it on my own time. If I were to even get it at all, I'm assuming. I'm sure you probably told me a lot of different lessons over the years that I possibly just didn't necessarily get, for lack of a better word. However, I do know there's at least there's several times when you said something to me and it's been maybe 6 months to a year, maybe the time I wasn't ready to receive it. I think oftentimes we think that we're ready to receive things and we're not, we don't receive them for whatever reason. Yeah, I was thinking of one time that I was talking too much. I was talking so much that I possibly could have missed several blessings because I was too busy talking, attempting to give, rather than understanding and knowing when it was time for me to receive. And in this case, it was not speaking, as you mentioned earlier.
Yeah. That's a powerful statement, and I tell you what, Mike, I believe that these are all things that we can learn, and that if we have the desire to learn, we do learn, because it goes the same way. I mean, you mentioned to me Toastmasters, like 5-6 years ago, and then I just joined, a year and a half ago or something like that, and realized what it was that I would gain from there. You also mentioned a few books, and I just recently took in the audible version of Never Split the Difference, and I thought to myself, man, I should have read that earlier, but you mentioned it multiple times on this show. So these things happen to each and every last one of us on a day-to-day basis.
Right.
I think when it comes down to it, there's so much information that comes in. It's very hard. It can be difficult to be able to, file and separate what it is that we need at the time being, especially when the information may be new. It may be foreign to us. So,
right.
And not to say that, you're wagging your head, because I don't believe that about you, and neither am I. It's just that sometimes you say, man, I wish I would have heard that earlier, and it's like, well, how do you hear that earlier? So the scriptures say, Jesus said on one occasion, he said, he that hath the ear, let him hear what the Spirit saith unto the churches. And it's like, that's a powerful statement. I mean, it's not one of those ones that maybe a lot of people remember as their favorite scripture, but it's a powerful statement because there's a lot of power inside of the word, and there's not a lot of power in a whole lot of talking, right? You can do a lot of talking and you can be powerless, and you can say one word and you can cripple societies, or you can raise families to overcome the most tragic type of scenario situations, and it's all by that. There's power in the word, and I think that is something that we have to. I'm glad we're discussing it. I really am. I'm glad we're discussing it. you know, I got points of view pouring in my brain, but I want to hear what you have to say.
Yeah, you mentioned the power in the word and the tongue specifically. I know we go back to the book on that. And then we months ago we spoke about timing, and
Mm.
and during that time, since we've had that talk, I've been developing this what I call a powerful presence. And so the powerful presence comes from the word, the tongue. I think the hearing here in your reading is never split the difference. People want to be understood.
Yeah.
So once you figure out how to get someone to understand that you understand them, then they're more open to hearing what it is that you have to say. I I remember I said this to a guy at the gym because I don't know what he did to someone. I forget what happened, but I brought him to the side and I said listen, I said your first conversation with someone shouldn't the first thing shouldn't be just correction. It's hard to just your first conversation being with someone is about correction. I guess I got that from working with the kids. If I came in and I was working with those teenagers and their young men and women, and the first thing I did was just to correct them, they weren't necessarily open to what it was that I had to say. And I think oftentimes when you're put in places of being that authority figure, say here's one that some people possibly can relate to. Uh, you haven't met your father in years. And the first time you do meet him, say it's 12, 13, 14, all of a sudden, whatever had transpired and the man pops up. And the first thing he's popping up to tell you is something that you did wrong or you need improvement with before he's had a conversation with you. A lot of people wouldn't be open to that. Even if he's been around, he's not around, like whatever it is, like you got to figure out, you have to understand, speak first to understand what is going on, what is this person's point of view, and then the dialogue can be opened up. I started this conversation with do not engage. Do not engage, because there's a lot of, and we're coming up into election season, political season, so we're starting to see a lot of, all of a sudden everybody's enraged and things are happening and et cetera, and we're not doing the actual deep research, which a lot of us don't have the time to do. But a lot of it is coming from this place of these hot button topics, these things that are released to trigger you, to get your emotions going. I'm asking the people, I'm talking to the people, and I'm saying, try your hardest not to engage. The first time you speak to listen. So the first thing that we have to do is some tangible things to take with you is the first thing you do is you ask a question. Not and you'll read and do not don't never split the difference, but it shouldn't be a why question, not an indicting question, but a what, what's going on? What has you feeling this way? How did you get that information? Well, what do you suppose we should do about it? What's happened before? Of course, work on your tone. I'm working on my tone as well. But it's the speaking first to understand, and then, heck, sometimes people are already triggered beyond, their emotions are already going. Maybe that's that time that then you really disengage. Hey, listen, we're not going to go there right now, or I'm not going there right now. Take a step back, and brother, I know you got because you're such a masterful communicator. What are you in regards to do not engage? What are some tips or some foundational things that you found that help you when not engaging with people who are not really open to what it is you have to say, even if it's to save their life?
I tell you, I appreciate that also. I think that's a great question. And the whole topic on engagement is it's it's something it can be a tough one, right? Because to not engage is sending a message, right? There's nonverbal cues, and there's bodily cues, there's facial cues, there's stance cues. There's so many different cues that speak for you, and so sometimes disengagement can be just that. And so, really, at the essence of it, at the sheer reality, or at the purest form of engagement or non-engagement, it's really about what happens inside your heart and inside of your mind. And that's where the tricky pieces happen. That's where that stuff happens. So just to answer the question, kind of straightforward, in a straightforward sense, is just to say, when a red button is pushed, red topics flare up and your buttons are pushed, disengagement is definitely something that can be beneficial. And really, when it comes down to that, the best way to disengage is to let people know from a standpoint of where you stand, because when we disengage from a conversation, husband and wife, wife says something, husband gets fiery hot, he fires back off something, the wife, she just stops talking all of a sudden. Well, there's no progress anymore in that relationship at that point in time, because now the husband feels, that the wife expressed herself, so he has every right to express himself, but she disengaged first, and now that causes a new conflict, because now he doesn't know what it was that she disengaged from. He's left, and there's a dependency between husband and wife, and if you read the book, the 7 habits of highly effectual people, by Stephen Covey, he talks a lot about this as well. So when it comes down to that disengagement, it's as Stephen Covey would say, it's being an empathic listener. So it's also about giving people the clues to who you are without violating yourself, without hanging yourself out there to dry. Because if the husband says one thing and then the wife spouts off something else, and then the husband, he decides he wants to disengage. If he disengages from his wife, she could become offended. So the disengagement may sound something more like, what we're talking about at this point is affecting me in a way that I'm not sure how to respond. And I think that I may not respond well right now. So I need to withdraw for this conversation, and we can get back together in a few hours. I hope that's okay with you, but I need to do that. And so what you're doing is, when you say, I hope that's okay with you, you're not asking for permission. Mm-hmm. You're telling them exactly what route you're going. And so sometimes what will end up happening is we play this power game with other individuals, and we give away our power. We say, right, is that okay with you? No, it's not about, is that okay with you? Because if they say no, you're stuck once again. And now it's a new argument. So you just say, I hope that's okay with you. I must disengage, and then you just come back. You keep your word. You come back. Hour, 5 minutes, and hour. Keep out there. You take a walk, or you walk the dog, or you go sit next to a pond, a lake, or take a ride, whatever. But then at the end of those 2 hours, those 3 hours, you come back just like you said you would, and then that also builds trust.
That's what I was going to say. Go ahead, brother. I apologize.
No, yes, no need for apologies, because I mean that's what. And so when we do this in the beginning of our relation, a lot of times people, they find themselves in the middle of this late in a relationship, and that's the reason why it's not working as well. You have to start from the very beginning, start from the very beginning, and set those ground rules. We're going all the way back a whole year when we talk about prepping the groundworks, fixing ourselves up and our communication up and setting those ground rules. So if anything, when people are in the middle of these types of conversations, especially if it's husband, wife, kids, parents, whatever, and you find yourself in this type of sticky situation where emotions are flying, then you have to start setting those ground rules right then and there and not wait until the relationship has eroded.
I agree. I think, definitely. So you're speaking from the relation. Definitely, there's no getting away from it. Well, let me not say that. That's definitely a higher point of doing it, especially dealing with a relationship where husband and wife. Very important. I love the trust aspect of it, giving a time of when you're going to get back, not leaving people in the lurch as to when this person's going to come back. I've seen that happen so many times, to where it's 2-3 days later and no one's spoken anything, and one person is saying, well, I'm giving this person their time, they asked for it, and the other person, but at the same time, you're kind of leaving me in a lurch to know if we're even just going to have this conversation or if we're going to pass over it. So it that definitely helps to develop the trust of within that communication. When you're dealing with people who you're committed to, one of the biggest commitments is marriage. You choose, you all are choosing each other to marry them. Especially when you're dealing with a wife and a husband, there's duty and involved in that as well. Taking up that commitment. I love it, brother. I'm writing it down.
Yeah. I don't know if one of the other things that sound like maybe you were heading in a direction, and probably not, but also with associates and, different types of businesses and things like that, disengagement can be extremely advantageous as well. There's a lot of writers that write about this. I think, Stephen Covey did, and all the gentleman that wrote that other book that we were talking about, Never Split the Difference, he talked about it as well. But it is the pause, and I believe it is written in a lot of sales books, but that pause means so much. When you give somebody an opportunity to think, and sometimes in these relationships, we're talking, we're not communicating, because we don't wait for the pause. We don't wait for the pause for somebody to answer, for them to think. We don't wait for a pause to see if the person that is speaking still has, maybe they are pausing because they wanted to emphasize the words that they said. And so we don't give a 1-2 count or anything like that inside of our minds. And when we start to speak, we realize we're overspeak, and the communication wasn't actually completed. So the pause can be really, really big, especially in business, a point of engagement.
Oh, I think we lost the brother. The brother was talking about the pauses and allowing people to think. And then I know he's getting in, and I guess my thought process was, especially with it, and I'm still preaching to not engage, to disingenuous conversations. Take the time to take a step back and really see how fruitful this conversation is. When you're dealing with your wife, Lord knows the brother's gonna have 10 times more experience. This is a brother that's been married for over 20 plus years. So he definitely would be able to guide you in the right direction. So here's my brother. I see you back. Here's my question. You're dealing with, let's say you're dealing with your significant. Can you hear me? First off, let me make sure.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So you're dealing with your significant other. All right. I'm not talking about Kathy because Kathy's the greatest. That's number one. Let's get this clear. This is a total hypothetical situation. I'm dealing with my significant other. The conversation is not really fruitful. I don't necessarily agree with the outcome, and we're both not aligned. One person is thinking one way, another person is thinking the other way. There's really not room for no one at this time is being open. Let's say I am open to being open, so somewhat to changing views, and this other person has their way of thinking, but not necessarily putting forth the information. I'm only just saying that because I'm going to take the accountability to attempt to be open, right? Because just in this hypothetical situation, sometimes Michael can be stubborn and hard-headed. What happens at that point? If the information you're providing is not enough to dissuade the partner, and the partner's information that they're providing is not enough to dissuade the other partner, what happens then? And a decision needs to be made. What are your thoughts on that?
There's a lot to unpack in that, right? So number one, if you're with somebody, depending on how much time you've been with them, does make some difference as well. I'd like to say that. But if you are misaligned, if you're misaligned with somebody that you said you love and they said they love you, and you all have been together, and now at this point in time you find yourself being misaligned, then there is something that is blocking your alignment, and you need to get realigned. It's like a vehicle. You if you drive your vehicle every single day, there's going to be a lot of wear and tear on that vehicle, and you got to do some upkeep. You got to put some oil in it. You have to change out the tires. You have to rotate the tires. You have to change belts. You have to improve the air quality. Sometimes the electrical system goes down. Spark plugs may need to be, you may need to get new spark plugs. Most people just put gas inside of their vehicle, and they think that that's enough. So gas is like this happy-go-lucky type of thing. And what I mean by that is like most I won't say most because I'm not a statistical type of guy, but a lot of relationships, they revolve on fuel. They revolve on, eating together, laughing together, having sex together. And this is their fuel. It keeps a relationship going, and it keeps it hot. It keeps it moving. It keeps the throttle down, because as long as they got fuel, they can throttle up. But the thing is over time, wear and tear starts to set in. And if you haven't oiled that thing, then you'll end up with an abrupt stop of the vehicle moving forward. Or if you haven't changed your tires out, all of those bumps, ditches, and pullovers on the side of the road, all of those different things that you've gone through with this person may have damaged your ability to roll together, and you are now misaligned. And so every single time you get in that vehicle, if you dare take your hands off the wheel, or if you don't pay attention, it's going to pull to the left or it's going to pull to the right. And you need to get realigned. And so in order to get realigned, you got to go and get those wheels taken off. You got to get them, you got to get the axle pulled into place, and you got to get those wheels put on and have that thing balanced out and a proper alignment. And so what I mean by that is that these relationships, sometimes people, they forget to realign themselves. They just keep on driving like everything is fine, and they know it's not. They feel it pulling to the left. They feel it pulling to the right, but they just keep going, and they think that because they're in the driver's seat that they got it all under control. They can overpower the pull. And every time you try to overpower the pull gets stronger. You can't overpower the pull. It gets stronger and stronger. And it's not because of the pull. It's because you haven't maintenance your vehicle. You haven't had that conversation with your spouse, with your significant other. You haven't had those deeper conversations. And now you're trying to talk about what exit you need to get off on. But we're way beyond exits because we can't even drive straight. So it's not about what exit we get off on the highway or whether we go this way or that way, because we are so far separate that we're pulling away from each other now.
Yeah. You know, so I'm hearing, what I hear is preventative maintenance in regards to, especially when you're in this something of this close a relationship. This could be, you do it with your business partners, right? Like if you're running a business, you're going to have quarterly meetings, you know what I mean? Or you're going to have yearly meetings. Like Warren Buffett is always putting out quarterly statements. So you do it within your business partner. Why not do it with your marital partner or your significant other? Go ahead.
Yeah, and that's important. Now when you're thinking about your significant other, though, here's the other thing is that you all decided to ride together.
Station 7.
It was getting juicy.
Station 7, I make a rescue unit to respond to 14200 Reservation Road, 14200 Reservation Road. Reference to travel member with a severe nose bleeding on call 1906.
I'm trying. Okay, there we go. Yeah, man. We're getting good with this one, man. I'm really, really enjoying this conversation. Because okay, go ahead, brother. Just want to make sure.
Yeah, so yeah, that's not me. So I'm still good. But
Rescue 7, this is not in reference to a started bleeding. She been in about 10 minutes. It's not stopping.
Yeah, as you all can tell, the brothers
they do a lot. They do a lot of talking, man. Unnecessary. So here's the thing. This is, the common goal has been lost in that relationship. See, that's what makes it a little more. I'm not going to say it makes it easier, but in a business, the common goal is there because the partners are looking to be prosperous. They're looking to make money. So it's easy to see what the common goal is. Now, if I were to go to families and say, hey, what is your common goal? How many husbands and wives could say whatever? What would they say?
Right.
What they say, there's the common goal isn't there. So they don't know what they're living for. They don't know what they're dying for. They don't know what they're fighting for. They don't know what they're fighting against.
Right.
So at a certain point in time, if they lose that connectivity, then it's very difficult for them to walk together. As long as they are walking together, they have some kind of common goal, and the families that talk more about their goals and their aspirations and their desires and their drives, it's much easier for them to stick together, especially when they're making those decisions together.
That's huge. That's huge. What is the common goal? Are you all aligned with it? And that conversation needs to be happening at the beginning. Now, here's a question: what happens when someone is no longer, that goal is no longer what they want?
Then it shouldn't make a difference, because if you're doing regular maintenance on your family, on your relationship, then that will arise. It's going to come up. It's like when you take your vehicle into the shop, You take it in there to get an oil change, and they do, and you say, well, just give me an inspection, a 50-point inspection. They say, hey, listen, your cabin filter is out. You say, oh, well, we're going to fix that.
Okay.
See, every time we sit down to talk with our family, with our loved ones, we should be there. Things will arise. They're going to rise up, and that's the thing, that by not being an empathic listener, that's why we're missing it, because she says something, he says something, but we were too busy proving our own points, so we heard nothing.
Dang gummit, we need to get the brother to do some relationship counseling. There seems to be, and this is what I'm not engaging with these conversations, but there definitely is some conversation in regards to people and their alignment and where they see themselves, etc. And at some point in time, marriage just happened to be something just to say you were being married, as opposed to getting with people who are aligned or want to be aligned on the same things, who have common goals, who have certain interests. So at some point in time, marriage was being done for other people as opposed to the people that were involved. And so now we're ending up becoming in a sticky situation, and how what's happening is our people are attempting to find, strategic ways of self-preservation. And it's just pushing people further and further apart and having more animosity and just being nasty towards each other. It's specifically in our demographic. I was going over some stats earlier today that were just, I would call it heartbreaking, because I do love our people in our community, but some of the stats that I see is heartbreaking within families. Let's get this. I'm a veer for a little bit and say people are talking about wealth. Well, one of the foundational things of wealth is family. So if you're married, if only 30, less than, I think it's less than a third, I think it's closer to 27%, between 25 and 27% of people are being married ever in the community, and 70 to 80, I believe, is going up to around 80% now. Let's call it 70 though. Let me give you some leeway. 70% of children are coming out of broken homes. And we know that broken homes has a high correlation with poverty. How can you ever establish wealth? It doesn't. It just doesn't work. And then in the increasing discriminant in regards to the gap, the pay wage gap. So your wages are getting less, and it's being split amongst 1, 2, 3, 4 households. I don't know. So family is the foundation. People talk about real estate. I know, and I totally understand real estate. We can talk about insurance as well. Those are definitely great tools and tools that you can use in order to increase wealth and legacy, if that's what you're into. But at the foundation of it is family. You're rarely going to meet a wealthy person that didn't come from a wealthy family, or come from a family that had somewhat aligned and sacrificed as well. All these things come into play. Nepotism is a huge factor in wealth as well. So if nobody knows anybody and everyone's trying to outdo everybody by themselves, what's the saying? You can go fast by yourself, but fast by yourself or fast alone, but you go further together.
Right.
We have to come to a point where families evolve. If we're actually talking about making a community stronger, everyone just can't do what's best for self. Oh man! All right, let me get off of my high horse because I'm not listening. I'm not listening.
I think that's powerful. I think that's powerful what you just said right there. Mike. I think it's powerful, and and to complement what you're saying also is that sometimes it takes somebody who gets enough gusto. I mean, going from, the relation, the husband and wife type of relationship to more of a family distinguishment type of relationship. Sometimes it takes that one son, that one daughter that decides that against all odds, I'm going to stand for something. And I think that means a whole lot. Um, I know that wasn't the direct route you were going, but it was something that what you said caused me to think about. It's like every so often you get that one black sheep, that one black goose, that just changes everything. And it's not until they become a beautiful swan, you know, um, they become a legacy, they become the head of something great, that everyone realizes, that they were born that way, to create that legacy. And I think that there needs to be more people that are like that, that are just ready to step out there, you know, and make that type of change. Talking about the singularity of an individual carrying the legacy of what was passed down through their generations that nobody else was able to break. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's rough, brother. Because I feel like I'm around a lot of those type individuals. It's a lot of pressure on them, on those individuals. It's definitely a lot of pressure on those individuals who are, quote unquote, going against the grain, um, and need some help, um, because it's a lot of sacrifice for that individual itself. Was it heavy who to him who wears the crown? Heavy is the head that wears the crown. And so, I
Yeah.
definitely, I try to support those individuals themselves, when I do come across them. But it's still a lot of weight to carry by yourself. We're stronger together is my, is a model that I'm fully behind. And if you can do that for yourself, for your kids, for your legacy, so to speak, if you can find people who can get aligned with you. But I love this conversation. I know we're gonna end it shortly. Specifically, what you mentioned. I think a lot of people need to tune into this, because we have to be able to come together and have these conversations. And the conversations, if the maintenance is there and people are coming with, because I initially started a conversation talking about the people who are disingenuous, because people are still hiding behind those masks and doing things because they think that it's supposed to look like this, and they get so far down a hole. And if you're not continuously checking in with these people, and guess what, some people may split up, but if you are checking in and you're empathetic, because some people they just don't want to do it. Whatever it is, whatever it may be, they may feel like they need to go on their own. But if you're constantly having these conversations, I think those breakups tend to be or those separations tend to be better than the ones that end, quote unquote, come from anger or from this lack of communication or maintenance that was happening. I love it, brother. Something like that needs to be put together, like a family. The brother left. I personally like to see something that's put together that talks about this family legacy plan. A lot of people are being left in the dark. A lot of people are being left unequipped. A lot of people are being left just confounded, not understanding how or where to go, because a lot of this stuff isn't taught. Like I mentioned before, the stats, we're in an era where 70 to 80% of kids are growing up in single parent households. Majority, 80% of those, I believe 84% of those are women-led households. 1 in every 4 black women will be married. And then when they are married, they tend to be in what they call destabilized marriages. So by the time they hit 40, they're divorced. And they're initiating the divorce. Well, we have to go back to the foundation of stuff rather than the strategies and the tactics of it. You got to go back to the foundation of just what the brother is talking about. So I think it'd be really good for us to come up with some kind of foundational plan that not only that we can disseminate, and I'm going to talk for the brothers because the brothers have to see this. It's same thing with the kids. We got a lot of brothers who are, we have these single family households where some brothers aren't engaging with their kids because 1, they don't want to deal with the counterpart. 2, they don't want to deal with the court system, or they don't want to initiate anything with the court system. And because that's happening, they're missing out very important times with their kids, but they don't know what that looks like. So these are some of the kind of solutions that we have to push forth based on foundational teachings. We have to do these things based on foundational teachings and gain these the skills, specifically communication skills, to allow for that to happen. All right, yeah, I think that those are my parting words. Any parting words for you, brother?
I think that was deep. I'd like to invite everybody out to our Communicate Now program.
Yeah.
May 27th, Labor Day weekend. It will be May 27th at Barracuda Bay. We'll be out there from 11 to 1. And these are the types of discussions that we're having right here. This is the type of stuff that we're bringing to the community, in Riviera Beach. And the young men, especially the young men that have showed up and that have come time after time, they've gained the benefit of what the city has supplied for all of them, and I'd love to have more young people come out there. We had guest speakers from all over. Mike has been a guest speaker. He's been one of our guest speakers on the program, and it's a beautiful program. But all of this stuff, everything that we're talking about, they're all learnable skills. And I was sharing that with somebody maybe earlier today, maybe yesterday. I think it was earlier today. But I was just sharing with them about what I learned over the course of time is that this is learnable. You say, well, I'm not that empathic. It's learnable. You say, well, I'm not that bold. It's learnable. There's nothing that you cannot learn. You can learn it all. It just comes down to, do you have the desire to learn it? And just like going back full circle with the last comment that we were talking about with these individuals that have this burning desire to be something much greater than maybe what their heritage has dumped in their laps, and they are looking for people to help them, like people like Mike who help people like this, then these individuals, that it's important that, as we're moving along through life and we meet up with these people, leave those lasting words. If they're willing to eat, leave those lasting words and give them a little something that's going to be able to help them, because locking up in the wrong relationships from the very beginning for those things that are just fuel, those are the things that burn people out. It has to be. It has to be. It has to be for the long run, because most marriages, and Mike, you can ask Mike. He probably has a statistic for you, but most marriages go through rocky roads. Most of them do. And so, in order for you to be able to get through rocky roads, you might even have to change out your tires. In order for you to get through the winter when everything is cold and nobody's talking to each other, you might have to change out for winter tires with chains on the tire or whatever. I'm just saying that you have to prepare yourself for the long road, and you have to know that every day isn't going to be easy, but I'm in this thing to make it work. That's what I'm here to do. So if I have to lay down my life to make it work, then I have to lay down my life. If I have to raise up my life, raise the quality of my mindset, then that's what I have to do. So just as much sacrifice as the individual has to give, then sometimes there's also a need for an individual to grow. And that applies on both sides. So that's my little piece.
And we appreciate it, brother, man. Guys, love the conversation. This was good. We'll be back next week. We appreciate you all for tuning in, even through our our technical difficulties. And until next time, man, we love you. Peace.
All right. Peace.